Welcome back, everyone, to the Suture Style Podcast, part of the Finish First Podcast Network. It is I, your co-host, Austin, joined with fellow co-host.
It is I, Brandon.
Oh, excellent. Today is September 2nd, 2020, the year of terrible. Opening question for Brandon today, as is tradition. If you were to rename the Washington football team, what would you name them and why?
I don't know.
This is a non-rehearsed question. I
have no clue. I do dig the Washington football team. I think that's actually really cool.
Need a name, sir. Need a name.
I don't know. I don't think that's up to me, and it's far above my pay grade. But I do think the Washington football team is fantastic. I saw a bunch of the alternative ones, like a bunch of the proposed ones. Like it was like the Washington Lincolns, like the Washington Monuments. Like
it sounds like you're not answering this question. You're giving me a political answer here.
No, it's because I don't know. But I see people out there, like, people make fun of the Washington football team all they want, but it sadly was not the worst one. Like, there was, I still think the Washington Lincolns and the Washington, not football team, and the Washington, like, Memorials were, like, the worst names possible.
All right. So, final answer is there is no answer.
Well, I have a question for you, Austin.
That is not my part of the segment, but go ahead.
Earlier today, yesterday, we were discussing frozen pizzas, and I wanted to know what your frozen pizza choice was.
Is there such a thing as a good frozen pizza?
Because we were ragging on DiGiorno quite a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely not delivery. That's
no.
I'm not saying that as a positive either.
It certainly is not.
I don't eat a lot of frozen pizza, so I honestly don't really.
But if you had to, it sounds like you're giving the political answer.
Does it have to be frozen, or can it be like a store brand fresh pizza that I have to take home and bake?
Frozen.
I really don't eat any.
Jack's?
I'll just say Jack's because that's the only one I've eaten in like.
Not the California Kitchen?
I've never had a California Kitchen pizza. I've probably had 4 Jacks in the last 5 years, and that's it. So
that's tough.
I just don't eat frozen pizza.
Lack of Jack.
I know.
Hate
it's probably
to see
a good
it.
thing for the health, though.
Look at me. I eat frozen pizzas all the time.
Pinnacle.
Yeah. Pinnacle of health right here.
You were the number 1 overall draft pick of health.
I was.
Well, that being said, all the jokes aside, we are going to begin the podcast today. We are going to be going over our top quarterbacks rankings 1 through 20. You might ask what happens about the remaining 12. We don't care. Go to the website for those rankings that you don't need.
You mean these people aren't in a 3-quarterback league?
No, and they probably are not in a 2 either. This is not a dynasty league, and most leagues aren't super flex as of yet. So just enjoy the top 20. And like I said, if you need more information, go to the website.
And you know what? If you don't like that we only ranked 20, show your frustration by clicking that like button. That's all we could ask.
Maybe if you complain enough, we'll do something about it.
Yeah, complain with the likes.
I mean, I have them all ranked, so
if this video gets 30 likes,
stop. If this gets,
if
this just doesn't get a dislike,
I might go out there and upload more than 20, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so we are going to jump in, starting at number 20 through 16. Brandon, how about you start us off? Tell us who you got.
Number 20 is somebody that people are pretty high on, or at least some people are.
Ooh.
But sadly, I am not.
Well, is that sad?
I don't know, actually. It's Daniel Jones. And he's one of those guys where all of his all the issues I see people getting on other young quarterbacks about, like such as Gardner Minshew, they get on him for all these things, but Jones is a much, much worse version in these. It seems like he was first off, he was number 22 in pass attempts, which he didn't throw the ball much. But as the number 22, first off, he fumbled like crazy, but that I'm leaving that out. He was number 2 in danger plays and number 5 in interceptable passes. So when you're the 22nd most passes and you throw the second most danger plays, that is not good.
If I had to wager, I would say that's probably not good.
No, it's not good. I'd argue it's pretty bad. And moving along, it's just I don't get the hype with him. He had decent weapons last year and was still like, I mean, maybe he'll make the leap. But my number 19 is Gardner Minshew.
I just want to, in fairness to him, he had 24 touchdowns in 12 games. Is that not impressive? 12 games started.
2 touchdowns a game isn't incredible.
For a rookie who you said had no weapons?
No, I said he had weapons. He didn't do much with it.
Who?
He had Saquon, who's arguably the best pass-catching back in the league, or one of. He had Evan Ingram for most of the season.
8 games.
Who is arguably a top 5 tight end.
8 games, and I did not check if those were with Manning or with Jones, but 8 games.
Either way, it's just he had decent weapons. It wasn't like when you go back to Gardner Minshew, who I was speaking about earlier. His guy's DJ Chark. Who else does he have? Like, yeah,
I mean, I hang on. I know there's a couple more that are okay.
it,
No, there really are a couple guys that are okay. I just can't think of the name. There's a really fast guy that's like his third year. I can't.
Kiki Cutie.
No, that's Texans.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, but I think he has a. I mean,
D.D. Westbrook. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking of. Not Kiki. Is D.D. But yeah,
he
it's
has
just
a lot of the guys are banged up.
it's just
know.
yeah. Like, I don't know. But moving on to number 19, as we're speaking about him, is Gardner Minshew. He was very average across the board, but for a rookie, that's pretty good. Let's see here, 20th in attempts, which is roughly around the same amount as Jones, and he was number 10 in danger plays versus number 22 or versus number 2, which isn't much better, but still quite a bit better. He's number 14 in interceptable passes versus number 5, and he didn't have 2 touchdowns a game, but he averaged. I'm trying to get the number here. It was nearly. He started I think 12 or 11 games, and he had 21, so it was roughly the same ratio.
Games.
So he has a little lower, but if you take into account how many fewer interceptions he throws, and he didn't have many, I guess he doesn't have many weapons now still, so I don't see much of a regression. He was also a very underrated rusher, number 6 in attempts, and this is also starting 3/4 of the season. Number 5 in carries per game, which is, I guess, something that helps him out a lot. He was number 5 in rushing yards too. So with a lot of his stats, he was like number 20 in passes and he was number 20 in yards. Stuff like that where he did what was expected. He did what he was supposed to do. Number 5 in carries per game, number 5 in rushing yards, and so on. Even number 20 in attempts and number 19 in touchdowns. So he essentially flatlined with what he should have done with his how many times he throws the ball. And even his supporting cast efficiency, here's the number. It ranked 21st, which I guess is better than I thought it was, but it was still a negative number, which is no good.
One thing with him too is he did have 345 rushing yards.
That's what I'm saying.
with
He's
no
number
touchdowns.
5. Yeah, and
So
that should go up.
I would expect him to pull down a couple touchdowns.
Mhm. I mean, even at 20 in attempts, number 17 in money throws, that's exceeding expectations. There's a lot of them, or a few stats where you can like, okay, well that at least looks all right, considering everyone's really down on him. Number 18, it's a guy who it's not his talent, but that's just Ryan Tannehill. His efficiency is fantastic. It's just he doesn't throw the ball hardly ever. And last season, the team itself ranked number 29th in attempts. And now that they have Derrick Henry and they showed they could win using Derrick Henry as a primary guy in the playoffs, I could see them using him more this year. So I don't like him just for lack of usage compared to the other guys. Number 17 is Big Ben. He's one of those guys where
That's pretty high for him.
it's just I keep hearing reports that his arm isn't looking as strong, and he doesn't have Antonio Brown, and his cast, like his supporting cast, is weaker, and he seems weaker as well. And he's getting up there. And
is his supporting cast weaker? I was about ready to argue the opposite for my rankings.
I don't think it's better.
I would say they have 3 very solid pass catchers. They have a decent tight end and a good
Solid
running back.
versus the best in the league are 2 very different things, though.
Well, yeah, but I think they're very deep. They're 3 deep. Or I don't know if you could have said that about the Steelers of old.
I just don't see it being as good. Even like Le'Veon Bell in his prime, I think was better than James Conner and more durable. But I guess that's up for debate. I see him hitting the wall, especially with his health over the past few years. He keeps getting hurt. His strength doesn't seem to be as good as it was, and he has me worried. He's somebody I wouldn't draft. Number 16, we have Baker Mayfield. One thing to note is that his protection rate was number 30 in the league, which is not good. That's not his fault. That's just his offensive line, but they did buff up the line, so that should help quite a bit. He had a bunch of strange stats, like number 4 in money throws, but number 5 in interceptable balls, stuff like that. And his red zone completion was number 50. It ranked number 50, which I assume is dead last, which again is something that's a bizarre stat. But that being said, with more time and with a better offensive line, and he has more weapons, even Austin Hooper, although David Njoku is a phenomenal tight end, I think Austin Hooper is a bit better. And I guess, yeah, that's my 5 right there. Were there any ones that took you by surprise? Probably Big Ben. But
Yeah, Big Ben probably would have been my most surprised, if that makes sense. I think I have him quite a bit lower in my list.
I assume you have Daniel Jones ahead of Gardner Minshew, because most people do.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, feel free to give yours. That was my first 5.
All right, so I will start with number 20. My first one is going to be at number 20. It's going to be my list freaked out. Derek Carr at number 20. I actually kind of like him in this spot. I'm not ever excited about him. Again, this is number 20, not number 10. So in most normal leagues, you're not going to play him. I mean, he was fairly formidable with 21 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and 4,000 yards. So I mean, he's still getting passing yards.
Yeah,
It's hard to look at the offense that they've put together and think that he's going to be any worse, because the offense is, I mean, if you look at, all of their weapons combined.
yeah, they got Ruggs.
They have
in the draft, who's supposed to be really good.
Renfro's supposed to be a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they have really actually stacked wide receiving core if you consider Waller and just kind of all they got moving down there.
He was the one guy I was debating whether or not to be putting in there, because like after last year I wasn't sure, but I could see him being a sleeper.
The problem with him, however, though, is he's like the classic Alex Smith throw 5 yards, guy. Like he just doesn't throw very much downfield, and that's kind of, his issue. And so that's kind of why I would steer clear of him any higher than that. I just think his ceiling is extremely limited.
Maybe that also could have been just due to lack of weapons last year. I
know if you're tight ends,
those wide receivers were rough.
but they still had, I believe it was one for sure, but I think it was 2 had 1,000 yards. But I don't know. I just think Derek Carr's his depth of target has never been very far.
I'm looking at it right here. He ranks number 25 in deep ball attempts.
Yeah, I don't even know what that's considering, because, obviously, Bridgewater and a bunch of rookies.
20 yards or further in the air. That's actually a pretty deep throw.
Yeah, he's just not a guy that's going to air it out, so I think his upside is very limited. Number 19, I have Drew Lock. He's another guy that I kind of have an asterisk on that I think could be a lot higher on this list. Brandon and I have talked a lot before about how good we think Denver's going to be, or at least I do. Their passing game is going to be a lot better. Their rushing game is going to be a lot better. And I just think their offense in general is going to be a lot better. And so,
yeah, unless he doesn't fall off a cliff, which I don't think he's going to.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a nice play. He looked good in his limited action last year. I know he only started 5 games, but he only threw 3 interceptions, which typically for a rookie, that's still not terrible. And so, it's just makes me excited, especially like we had talked about all his, the Jerry Jeudy, the Cortland Sutton, just everybody on that team, the Noah Fant. There's a lot of good options, and especially considering Melvin Gordon is a very good pass catcher, and Philip Lindsay should be a lot better. I know he never really recovered after the wrist last year in terms of his role in the pass game. So I just think there's going to be a lot of people to throw to, and the run game is going to be good, and it should open up a lot for him. So Denver's actually a really solid roster. I need to go bet the over on the win total. Number 18, I have Baker Mayfield. It's hard for me, and I know that Brandon kind of highlighted how bad the offensive line was last year, but it's hard for me to get excited about a team or a quarterback that turned the ball over 21 times through the air last year. That's never something you like to see, and so I'm a little bit worried about his potential upside. I think he does potentially have a very high ceiling given how many people he has on, how many good players that offense has. I'm worried that he's going to turn the ball over a lot, and just because the offensive line is better doesn't make it awesome. Yeah. Especially when you're starting from the very worst point. So it just gets me nervous when he's throwing that many interceptions, regardless of the offensive line.
Yeah, when you go from a 0 to a 4, at the end of the day, that's a huge improvement, but you're still at a 4.
That's just a lot of bad habits, it would tell me, and just somebody who's not quite made the complete leap yet. Yeah. So I'm still, he's one of those guys. I don't have him start or anything, but if you said, he finished as like the number 7, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised.
I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked.
I just think that given how low his ceiling has been, or how low his floor has been, I just wouldn't be surprised if he really bumped it up, because he doesn't seem like he could do all that much worse. Number 17, I have Phillip Rivers. I hate to put him there, especially after his season last year where he threw for 4,600 yards. I think the Colts are still going to be a great offense. I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity to pass the ball around. You just have to get worried. He's another guy. He had the 20 interceptions last season. He's also getting older. His throwing motion is looking more broken every single year, if that's even possible. The offensive line is very good, though. So I believe they have a top 5 offensive line in terms of the pass protection. And so I think last year he was just constantly under duress. And so his game is obviously not based on athleticism. And so I think that will help him out a lot more. Between him and Mayfield, I think the offensive line would help him out quite a bit more personally. But, and I don't expect the Colts to be down so much. Like I know Brandon and I have talked about on previous episodes. When you're driving fourth quarter down points every single week, you're going to throw a lot more 50-50 balls than if you were up a touchdown, per se. So I think his stats, I know Mayfield was a little bit of the same way, but I think his stats are going to get quite a bit better, but I don't think he has quite the upside, obviously, that he has had in previous years.
One scary stat I looked up real quick. His money throws, he ranked number 19th with 14. His interceptable passes were 36, and he was ranked number 2.
Yeah.
So it seems like whenever he airs it out or takes a chance, it doesn't seem to end well.
I want to give him a pass a little bit because the offensive line was horrendous and he's not mobile, plus the fact that they're always losing in the fourth. I just think those two factors are, and I know that Baker could be, a lot of these guys you could make the same argument for, but I just think him specifically, he just kind of heaves it up a little bit like the Brett Favre back in the day where just you're just going to go for it. And so I think that he's, and there's something to be said if he can ever win a jump ball, but if he can't complete a jump ball to the correct team ever.
He's almost at 39 too.
Yeah,
that's crazy. He's a lot older than I thought.
I think he has a pretty solid floor, but I think the ceiling is limited due to a lot of the different things we mentioned. Number 16 is going to be Sam Darnold. He's an interesting one, mostly because he's one of those few guys that you still don't really know if he's good or not. I think he's good, but Adam Gase, you just can't trust anything that team puts together.
No.
The mono didn't help him either. He only started 13 games, and I would believe that probably when he came back, he was not at 100% full strength, given that you usually lose weight in mono and lose conditioning and this, that, and the other thing. The 13 interceptions is, I guess, positive.
For a second-year guy, it isn't terrible. Or is he a third year?
He's I think that was a second year last year.
I thought too.
Yeah, I think he's going into year 3.
For a second-year guy, that's not bad.
Yeah, so it's not horrible, especially given he's on the Jets and given the issues that they were having with health and everything else.
With everything.
He's one of those guys, unfortunately, that you always feel like, if he would have went to insert the blank team, he would have been really good. So, or he'd be a lot better already. But he's shown that he can move the ball. They were obviously way better when he was playing. He was making people viable options. And I just think that even though it doesn't look all that, all that exciting for the Jets this year, I still think he's going to put together a pretty nice season. He's probably one of those guys, maybe I'm biased because I have him in Dynasty, but I think he's a better long-term Dynasty play than a redraft 2020 league, if that makes any sense. He's, I feel like he's going to be the guy who could probably give you 15 or 16 every single week, but I would never expect, drop that 38, point week or, anything like that. So pretty average ceiling, I think, for this year anyway, especially given their lack of options. But that being said, that's going to wrap up our 20 through 16. We are now going to transition into Big Boo over here.
Ooh,
Brandon. I don't know if I've ever referenced him as that before.
It's getting spooky in here.
Brandon's going to go ahead and give us a question. What kind of question is this? Was this submitted by a user or was this a found on the internet question?
That is irrelevant. We're here for the people.
Okay,
here at the Suit Yourself podcast,
so we're just going to say
are here for the
somebody
people.
asked this question. Send it our way. So
this one, I guess I looked into the question. They didn't constitute what a late round meant. So I'm going to define that. We've ranked our top 20, and the question was, what late round QB are you targeting? He could have phrased the question a little better. But I'll say, at least amend it to, outside of our top 20, is there anybody you think who could make some noise?
Outside of our top 20.
Or your top 20 outside of mine, I can give one. Mine, I might have just mentioned it a couple seconds ago, is Derek Carr. He's one of those guys where he put up decent enough numbers with very few weapons, where now that he has a lot more weapons, I think he'll air it out more. I like the additions they got, and I think that they're going to be maybe not a surprise team, but I think they're going to be significantly better than they were last year.
One guy I'll say, he's kind of a guy that I'm almost wondering why I have him ranked where I ranked him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just hard to move up in a weird way. And I noticed that in the mock drafts that I've done, I can always snag him at the end of drafts, and that's going to be Jared Goff. So he was tied for the most attempts last year. I don't know how you tie for first in attempts, because I think it was like 436.
It was way more than that.
Was it? Well,
people threw in the 600s.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then it must have been 6. It was something. Him and Jameis Winston were tied for attempts.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, and so he had a lot worse year than he had the prior year, and so I think, especially with McVay, that he has a pretty high ceiling, all things considered, and with that many yards, I mean, he threw 16 interceptions, which obviously is not great.
But if you're number one in attempts, 16 isn't bad either.
Yeah, but you're supposed to be. I mean, it's not Jameis Winston bad, but, you'd like to think that you're, being a little better with the football, but, given he's not a rookie and everything. But I do think that he has probably the best chance out of the top 20, especially as somebody who's not getting respected in any any of the mock redrafts I've done. I just think he's your best option. I'd take him over, quite a few people ranked ahead of him.
Will we be seeing that later or no?
No.
Okay.
This is the one that I've been debating with myself why I have him ranked where I do, because it just feels wrong given where he's finished the last 2 years. But I just when you just look through everything, you don't have outside of McVay and hopefully the offense is good. You just don't feel like you have a lot of reasons to. You're betting on the system and not him, which makes it feel dirty to rank him very good, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you. That was an excellent answer. For the people back at home, if you're watching this on a YouTube video, when you click that like button, make sure to leave questions in the comments as well. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, submit them to Suit Yourself Pod. That's at Suit Yourself Pod on Twitter, and we can get those questions on the show and answer.
We promise we will start using. I have not tweeted on that account yet.
Well, fine. Only room for improvement. Now, speaking of Jared Goff, I guess that can move us into my number 15.
Well, did you have a quick answer for that?
Oh, I said Derek Carr. He's not ranked on mine.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't sure. You went quicker than usual, so I guess I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it was just because, you already spoke on him. So, yeah. So, moving forward, Jared Goff is my number 15, as you spoke on earlier. I do have in the notes he was number 1 in attempts and number 3 in yards. However, when it came to...
Number 1 in our hearts.
Number 1 in my heart. We have the efficiency stats, and those unfortunately tell a much different story.
I don't think those are probably.
No, he benefited a lot off of leading the league in attempts, much like Jameis did. If we look at it here, number 30 in clean pocket percentage, his completion percentage in a clean pocket, not how often his pocket was clean. Number 24 in pressured I can't talk because I misspelled it. Pressured completion percentage. Number 30 in deep ball percentage. Number 23 in true passer. He basically, if he didn't throw the ball that much, he would not have been viable at all. It's just he got lucky. He threw the ball a lot. He was number 4 in red zone, or number 8, excuse me, which is a plus. But under here in the notes, I have just a product of so many attempts. Hopefully they will get better. Or hopefully the system will be a little better next year. Maybe some more consistent running back play and have Cooper Kupp healthy for the entire season. I think he was hurt a decent amount back then too.
Yeah, that'll help a lot.
We have number 14 too, and that's Aaron Rodgers. He is the exact opposite as Jared Goff. He didn't have many attempts. I don't have him written down. But he threw for 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. I mean, that's fantastic efficiency. He's number 1 in money throws, number 2 in deep throws. He was number 4 in red zone attempts and number 8 in touchdowns. He basically he was fantastic. It's just he didn't throw the ball much. And with the success they had in the run game, now that they've drafted another running back and they have even Williams back there too, I still think they're going to try to keep the run identity. And the run identity worked for them. They had the best season they've had.
Have you seen a picture of that guy?
What guy?
AJ Dillon?
No.
You should when I'm talking, you should look him up.
I've probably seen him, but
he's got the Saquon legs going on. I know I'm 2 weeks late to this.
AJ
Everybody
Dillon.
Comment on his legs, but dude's got some. He's got some. I'm not saying he didn't do any hard work, but he's got some good genetics.
I mean,
those legs are disgustingly
my
huge.
land.
And when I say disgustingly huge, I mean I'm pretty jealous.
You know how people like put like a watermelon between their legs and crack it?
Yeah.
He can put like a basketball and pop it.
Ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude's got some man legs.
My goodness.
Yeah, like bodybuilders are jealous of those. Those are nice.
It's like those ads. Gyms hate him, but like he's actually the guy that gyms
actually do hate him.
But yeah, what I was getting at was
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that was a good segment.
His legs are incredible.
I did need to see that. With Aaron Rodgers, it worked. Them running the ball worked. How many wins they have? 13. They like 13 or 14.
As a Packer fan, the wins were never pretty, and
it got it done.
It consisted of the Packers playing an incredible first half and just trying not to blow the second half lead. That's usually what it was.
Yeah, that's fair. And moving along, we have this might be a surprise. It might not. I don't know what people
Oh.
think about this pick, but it is Cam Newton. He's at number 13. By most of the efficiency numbers, as I spoke about a couple episodes ago, Tom Brady was not good. So basically, with this, all we need is Cam to show up and just not suck. And he has the weapons, he has the system, and he has the legs. Maybe not A.J. Dillon's legs, but he has the legs to get it done.
You've been a little bit disrespectful to Tom Brady. I mean, in fairness to him, he had one guy to throw the ball to. And, I mean, he didn't even have a running back. I don't want to call what we saw last year as a running back.
Sony Michel,
That
Patriots great.
That is not a run game.
It wasn't.
And so why they did not go and get what's his name is I don't know.
Burnett.
Yeah,
I was wondering the same thing.
but
It's that two other teams are interested. I wouldn't
probably
be
'cause
surprised.
he didn't want to pay for it. Belichick doesn't want to pay him.
But even I'm looking at Brady's numbers now. True completion percentage, number 30. Play action completion percentage, 28, which makes sense because
I'm
nobody's
not
buying
saying
that.
the numbers look good. I'm saying though he threw for 4,000 yards with nobody.
Red zone completion, 27. All the major ones, other than deep ball, which is weird because the whole narrative around him is he can't throw deep. He's number 9 in deep throw completion percentage. But yeah, under pressure, 29. Clean pocket, 32. It's like he just struggled. He benefited from being number 4 in attempts, I think, and number 1 in red zone attempts, which certainly helped. But yeah, basically, if Cam just shows up and is decent at passing the ball, and with his legs with I know you don't think the weapons are great, but it worked last year to an
I think
extent.
they're a little better.
Yeah,
this year.
I could see him at least being viable and a potential, maybe not a QB1 because I guess QB1 would be 12 and below, but I could still see him being a good guy for bye weeks. Number 12. Speaking of Tom Brady, we have Tom Brady.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No, go ahead.
I don't mean to hold you up. You think he's only good as a bye week? You wouldn't want him as your quarterback?
I'd pick somebody ahead of him, but I'd keep him around because he has potential to move way up.
Okay.
Because Prime Cam was a top 3 quarterback every year, and who were his weapons back then?
I mean, the last
An
time
80-year-old Steve Smith. I mean,
the last time Cam played, he had 24 touchdowns. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
that's something.
it's just we haven't seen him in so long, and his injury concerns. He has me a little concerned, but
I think the running is the biggest question, which is why you'd be nervous.
yeah,
If he doesn't run anymore, then I would agree that his value is dramatically.
decreased.
Yeah.
Number 12, though, we do have Tom Brady, 42 years old, which you'd think he'd be over the hill, and it might sound like I was being disrespectful in the last segment. However, for 42 years old, what he did was incredible. 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And he should have, and I say should, he will have better weapons this time around.
A lot better weapons.
Yeah. Mike Evans has been speaking very highly of him, saying he's trying to make him, as in Mike Evans. So I guess Mike Evans said he's trying to make me a living legend, which means he's probably throwing him the ball a lot. He's got Chris Godwin, obviously. He just picked up Leonard Fournette. We didn't mention earlier, but they just signed Leonard Fournette about 10 minutes ago.
Ronald Jones is also supposed to be good.
And yes, if LaShawn McCoy is your third string running back,
I forgot he was there.
that's pretty nice. And considering they wasted a draft pick on Krishan Vaughn, and in my dynasty league, I wasted a draft pick on Krishan Vaughn.
Luckily, I drafted Denzel Mims instead.
Yeah, it really hurts. But last season,
You're forgetting the 3 tight ends.
Rob Gronkowski, of course.
Well, no, I'm being dead serious when I say this. I think they have 3 tight ends that could probably start on their own teams. OJ Howard is good enough to start on a lot of teams. Cameron Brate's. I'm not saying he's
OJ Howard though, he's been the ultimate tease for 3 years.
I don't think he gets used very much. He's always good when he's
So what's
used.
going to change now that they have Gronk?
No, what I'm saying though is that I think, how many teams do you know 3 tight ends on their roster? I'm just saying I think that all 3 of them would start in other teams. Is essentially it's weird.
Depending on the team.
It's like Hayden Hurst being a backup last year. You're like, oh, that guy's actually good, and he's not he's started on another team now.
It's like David Njoku on the Browns right now.
I actually do think he would start. I think he's actually okay.
He'd probably start over Dawson Knox on the
I am not
Bills.
referencing Mo Alley Cox. He would not start on it.
Oh, he wouldn't. But yeah, Tom Brady last season, 613 attempts, which was, I think, number 4. I don't see that happening again. But at the same time, he has more weapons, so it should even it out just fine. And the last one for this segment of 5 is Drew Brees, which might be a hot take because a lot of people are expecting regression. And he very well might. But last season, he played, I think 11 games? And one of those he left injured.
When you said Deshaun?
Drew Brees.
Oh. I'm not sure what my mind was. Yeah, he started 11.
Okay, yeah, and he like left halfway through one. So I'd say he played 10, let's say. And in the 10, he had 3,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, which is still fantastic.
Pretty good.
Yeah, if we scroll down, Aaron Rodgers was 26 touchdowns and 4. He was 27 and 4. So like people are talking about potential regression, but he has a lot of good weapons too. So it's hard to see that. True passer rating was number 3. True completion percentage was number 1. Red zone completion number 5. Deep ball completion number 7. Pressured completion number 3. And clean pocket completion percentage is number 2. So across all of the efficiency stats, he was top 5 in every single one except deep ball, which he was number 7. And when your best receiver doesn't run deep routes, it's kind of hard to have that high, but he's still managed.
You'd have to think he's going to be a little better this year as well because the injuries behind him.
Yeah, he's not getting put in and out and in and out. But yeah, he definitely was very, I'd say, underrated last year, especially for who he's getting drafted at. I did a draft last night, as you're aware of, but the listeners might not be.
I don't think they would be.
In the draft, I got Drew Brees with the last pick, like the pick number 16 for me. So I mean,
that still seems pretty crazy.
Yeah, he dropped to the 16th round. So, and like I'm pretty sure Teddy Bridgewater got drafted. And like that pisses me off.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Like that is just so stupid. And yeah, I have no time for that. But
doesn't make any sense.
No, not at all. But yeah, that was my 5 for that area. What were you thinking?
All right, so I will start with my number 15, and my number 15 is actually Cam Newton. Guys that we talked about already with amongst, I won't go into super big detail, but I think you kind of it's a risky pick, like Brood and I talked about a second ago. It's going to be a risky pick, but like I mentioned, 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions the prior year with, I know 3,400 yards isn't crazy, but he also did have quite a few rushing yards in there. And, the hope is that he's in a better system for him and a system that can use him a little bit more intelligently now that he's getting older. And I think that it's a system that'll kind of work with him and help him. I mean, if Brady can find success at 43 there with limited weapons, you'd think that Cam would have a much easier time 10 years younger. And so I'm not saying that Cam's Brady or he's even close, but I'm saying I think he has a lot. His skill set is so much different and so much more open in terms of what he can do, whether it be running or moving around the pocket. I think it's something that's going to be helpful for him, and I think it's going to be a nice area. It's probably the best landing spot he could have landed at, and I think it's really going to help him, and I think he's going to revitalize his career. And as we mentioned, if he was a top 10 quarterback, it wouldn't surprise me at all. So I bet people are honestly going to – you're either going to get in a draft that nobody wants him or everybody wants to overdraft him.
Yeah, someone's going to be like, Cam of old, I want him in the
I don't think he's ever
round.
going to be around 15. He's probably going to be more like 8 or 20 or 25 or something. But
if he isn't,
he would be somebody that I would love just to throw on my bench, just as a QB2 if I got somebody better. But I do like him.
Maybe not even somebody better, just somebody safer. You use the safe guy a couple
That
weeks
is true.
And like feel it out, and if you see Cam's doing well, you just throw him in there and get a very good quarterback for not much.
There is something to say that if a quarterback really thinks running is part of his game, it's going to hurt his passing to some extent because he's focused on 2 different things. Where if he's kind of now a pocket guy for the most part, I think it might help him out in his passing game a little bit. He's never been the most accurate guy, so hopefully that gets better. But he's just kind of a wild card. I wouldn't have him be the only QB on my roster. But he's definitely a really high upside guy, as we've seen in prior years. Number 14 for me is going to be Kyler Murray. I know people are going to consider that a hot take and say that I should have him a lot closer to the top 5.
I don't blame you.
I still think there's reasons to be a little hesitant about him. I know he had a really nice season last year for a rookie. I'm just not entirely sold yet. 20 and 12 as far as touchdowns to interceptions isn't incredible. I know they've overhauled essentially everything. They have a better run game. They have better wide receivers now. It's obviously tailored to help him a lot, and I do think he is good enough to make the jump. It's just one of those things that I think he is one of those guys that is drafted a lot higher than what is probably safe. But I do think his ceiling is incredibly high at the same time. I think his ceiling is probably a lot higher than quite a few of the guys that I have in front of him. So it just depends how much risk you're willing to take. If you're trying to be risky, I would probably take him top 10. If you are just trying to, not overdraft him, I'd probably have him closer to where I have him. So it's kind of just how much you think he's going to take a step forward. Kingsbury's a good coach. The team should be a lot better, but I would not be surprised if he was top 10. Wouldn't be surprised if he's where he's at. So just depends how risk averse you are with that. For number 13, I have Drew Brees. Like Brandon said, his numbers were phenomenal when he plays. He has, at least from what I can remember, seemed to be getting hurt a lot more, which is always a concern. But that team is going to be good. Michael Thomas is always going to be his outlet pass, and I think that they're always going to have success with what they're doing there. Sorry, I had the camera on the wrong individual there.
Yeah, I glanced over and saw me in there. I'm like, why is the camera on me right now? I'm not talking.
Yeah. We wanted your reaction.
I gave the engaged nod.
The one time you were watching. And so I expect Drew Brees to have another great year. I am worried about his health, a little bit about the deep ball. I know his deep ball numbers, if I remember, were okay.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
But I just get a little worried with him. But I do think he's going to bounce back. And I think, as Brandon alluded to before, I think he is being very disrespected in drafts. And I do think that his ceiling is not quite as high as it used to be, but I still think that he's a good play every week and somebody that you can feel safe drafting as your one. My number 12, this is one that I had a tough time putting over him. I have Daniel Jones at number 12. And this is more so because I think the Giants are just going to throw the ball all over the place, and I think that they have enough, I'm not going to say elite weapons because they don't. They have, if players are 1 through 10s, they have a lot of 7s. With Sterling Shepard, and I don't know if anybody wants to call Slayton a 7, but Ingram and Barkley, obviously not a 7, but I think you get the point. They have a lot of guys that are competent at catching the football and who can contribute quite a bit. I think I forgot Golden Tate as well. I believe he's a little banged up right now, but he should be back relatively soon. And I just think that they're going to do a lot of damage through the pass. Just in the 11 games he started last year, he was, or 12 games, he was 24-12. So he's clearly not afraid to air the ball out. Definitely not afraid to take chances, and I think that's going to be helpful for him. And like we said, if your first year you can get those stats with the guys that were playing, Evan Ingram being hurt, Golden Tate being hurt. I think Sterling Shepard was hurt for quite a bit.
Golden Tate wasn't even there.
Wasn't there?
He was in the Lions, wasn't he?
No, I think that.
Oh shoot!
You're thinking Marvin Jones.
I have to look this up. Continue though.
Yeah, Marvin Jones is on the. I think that's who you're getting confused with, because they. I don't know. Were they both on the?
They both were on the Lions.
Seahawks? No, I don't.
Oh,
remember.
Golden Tate was in the Eagles the year before. Excuse me. Wow.
Yeah, but he got traded to the
Giants.
Yeah.
No. He's 2018, and then the 2019 season he was in the Giants.
So.
Jeez, it was on the Lions 2 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, he's been kind of passed around a little bit, but he's obviously a good player, and I think that they're going to do a lot of work with him. And I just see that offense. He's oddly a guy, like, I don't think he's that good, but he's one of those guys that could wind himself being wind up being a top 10 guy.
He's like good enough, but are you talking about Jones or
Jones?
Oh, I don't agree with that.
I think Jones is definitely good enough to be top 10, especially in that division, which outside of Washington, they're all going to score a lot of points, and that's 4 games a year. So I just think that he has a very high ceiling, oddly enough, even though I don't think he's that good of a player, if that makes any sense. And my number 11 is going to be Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is always a very solid play. He's not going to, blow the ceiling off, but he's definitely a very solid play, can put up high 20s on any given week. The pass game is a lot, they have a lot of good receivers there. The offense is going to be good with, obviously, Gurley can catch a lot of passes. And so I expect him to have another great year. I know they were kind of bouncing back at the end of last year, and I expect them to maintain that momentum. And I expect them to be a lot better than last year, honestly. And again, 26 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. He's one of the higher touchdown guys from last year. And I just think he's going to continue that moving forward. So I really like him this year, and I expect more good things out of him. And then that's going to wrap up my 15 through 11. Brandon has another listener question.
This isn't a question. This is something.
Well, I don't know what I'm talking about.
First off, I have a fun fact for you.
Oh, fun facts.
We both were just speaking on Drew Brees and how we felt that he was a little disrespected. Well, last season, he ranked number 5 on a points per game basis. So the fact that I got the guy who got number 5 in points and he didn't lose any of his weapons, and I got him in the 16th round, I think is a steal. That being said, it is good to know. Mm-hmm. But somebody basically, I saw a post. It was an article, and it was, do rookie QBs actually check down more to the running backs and the tight ends? Because I know back in the past couple of episodes with Hunter Henry where, like, oh, well, the rookie quarterback will dump it off to the, which is a common held belief. However, the numbers were crunched.
Oh.
And let me tell you something.
We
got the results.
Oh.
And it looks like.
Imagine if the
veterans
numbers were crunched and we didn't have results.
Exactly. Yeah, we'd have some problems there. But rookie quarterbacks last season threw the ball to the wide receivers. I'm going to round up to the half, 19 times per game, whereas the veterans threw 19 times per game. The rookies threw to the running backs 6.5 times, where the veterans threw to the running backs 7.6 times, which is more for the veterans. And the veterans threw to the tight ends 6.8, only to the tight ends for the rookies for 6.5.
Are these percents?
These are per game, per attempts per game. So it doesn't both ways though. Veterans throw more and a higher percentage to both running backs and tight ends than rookies. Fun fact.
Now, just to play devil's advocate, what if the veterans throw the ball 10 times more a game? Would that be enough to influence stats?
No, because rookies on average last year threw 32.1, whereas veterans threw 33.2. So it was only one attempt per game difference. So yeah, just I guess it debunked something we were both talking about and something I hear a lot. And that is, oh, well, they check it down to the running back. They check it down to the tight end. In this also, the stat honestly was probably skewed by Carson Wentz and Derek Carr, if we're being honest, because they utilize those tight ends a ton. And it also could be, the numbers might not be perfect because all of the good tight ends, I guess none of the good tight ends were with rookies. And by good, I mean the elites. So, like, for instance, Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce. I don't know if I'll throw Darren Waller into the elite category, but I had an elite season last year. None of the good guys or great tight ends were with rookie quarterbacks, which also could be part of it. But, yeah, those were the numbers. And he did it for a couple years prior to, and the numbers were relatively the same, though. So I thought it was just a fun article, and I thought it was something very, very interesting that it's maybe not a fallacy, but a misconception that a lot of people have.
No, exactly. Very fun. Thank you for that.
Did you think that was a little insightful?
I did. I appreciate you digging up that fun fact for the listeners.
I certainly hope the listeners find it helpful, too. If you found it helpful, click that like button. So please. So moving along.
Brandon will give us his rankings for quarterbacks 10 through 6.
I've been relatively long-winded, so I'll try to speed these up a bit. We do have Matt Ryan at number 10, like you said a couple picks ago. He is, in my opinion, a very safe pick. He doesn't get hurt much. And that being said, last year he had an off year, and he was still fine. I did see the stat in even years since 2010.
Oh, no.
Top 5 quarterback every single year.
Oh, no.
In the odd numbers, 0 in the top 5. And guess what? 2020 is an even number. So if history repeats itself, which it did for the past 5 years.
Itself about 2020.
I don't want to. The season won't happen. But that being said, I mean, with that one stat, he's bound to do it. But we have a little more information than just that.
Oh, thank goodness.
He does like to pass a lot, and I think Todd Gurley will help a little bit. While Devonta Freeman isn't a scrub, I think Gurley is a little better in the pass game. But at the same time, not a huge upgrade, but a slight.
Not a fan of Ito Smith? Brian Hill?
No. We had Ridley, Hurst, Julio, and Gurley for 4 guys to throw the ball to. I think that's a pretty good supporting cast as well. And last year was viewed as a down year when he threw for 4,500 yards and 26 touchdowns, which makes his floor relatively low.
He did have the 3rd most attempts.
Yeah, even when he's struggling, he still could put up the fantasy numbers. And even, the 16 turnovers. I'd rather have some guy. Was it 16? I didn't have that written down. 14.
26 and 14.
Yeah, if you I'd rather have a guy fantasy-wise throw 14 with 26 than throw 20 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, because I'm pretty sure you're still getting more points. So interceptions don't mean much, especially when it's a guy who doesn't have his job in jeopardy. Like, no one's, even if Matt Ryan has an off season or even an off game, no one's like, oh, they might bench him. Like, no. So moving on, we have number 9. That's Josh Allen, the king of New York. Nobody's drafting him for his passing, although there have been many reports saying that Stephon Diggs has looked very, very good in camp. And I watched some videos on it, and he has looked very good. They say he's light years ahead of all their other receiving options, which, again, when John Brown is your number one. When John Brown's your number one and Dawson Knox is your starting tight end, it's not saying much. He has been wildly inaccurate and only ranks number 21 in pass attempts. And last year, he even had 20 passing touchdowns, which is a career high for him, which is not great for a career high. Granted, one season as the starter and a half season as a starter. Stephon Diggs does give him a good deep option, and he likes to air it out. Fantastic in the run game. By all the numbers, he was the number 2 rushing quarterback in the league and number 1 in rushing touchdowns, which could be a reason why his 20 touchdowns, had he not rushed him in, could have turned into around 25-ish passing, all things considered. But still something to note. Number 8, we have, I think, the biggest sleeper and easily could be a top 5 quarterback. And this is a very, very unpopular opinion. And that is
Taylor?
No, not Tyrod Taylor. We have Matthew Stafford. Now, last season, Matthew Stafford played 8 games, right?
Ooh.
That's not many.
Not gonna like where I have him.
But it's exactly half the season. In half the season, he had 2,500 yards, so on track for 5,000, and he had 19 touchdowns, which is 1 less than Josh Allen, and he played 8 less games. So let's say, hypothetically, he were to keep those numbers up, which I don't think he would have because he was on a tear. If he were to keep those numbers up, he would have went for 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns, which is insane. On a per-game basis, he was the number 4 quarterback in the league as well. They're always pass-friendly. He averaged 22 points a game. And there is one setback with him, just one. And
durability.
That is exactly it. It is the injury history. And with that being said, the protection rate the Lions had for him last season was number 25th in the league. So him getting hit a lot makes sense. But if he could stay healthy, I think he has top 5 potential easily. And I know that's a little bit of a hot take. I don't really care.
I always think of the Lions as being an elite offensive team.
Well, they throw the ball certainly enough. But let's see here. We have number 7, Kyler Murray. I think, as you were saying, I think he's one of the more overrated picks.
Oh.
And I have him at number 7, and that's only for his legs. However, I'm not going to draft him.
Do you like his legs?
I haven't seen him recently, but they're probably pretty nice.
Oh.
A little short, but he's...
They need to be said.
I kind of did, though.
It's the studs. It needs longer studs.
Yeah, that's it. But I will not be drafting Kyler Murray. I have him here because I think that he's going to have a good season. However, he's one of those guys I'm very, very iffy on.
What would it take for you to have to draft him?
So he's...
What round?
Let me look up the ADP
if you
first.
give him in the 10th round.
The ADP, he's being picked in round 5.
So what round would it take for you to take him?
I mean...
Oh.
If he were to fall like round 8, I probably would.
Oh.
But as long as he's getting drafted around the 5th round, that's not happening. He's getting drafted before Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, that's possible in our upcoming yearly league, our redraft league. We have a very anti-QB league.
I'm looking at this now. Drew Brees is on the ADP. His ADP is 60 or 76. How did I get him in the 16th round?
Yeah, I don't know. I think your league was just weird.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Anyways,
a lot of it depends too. I think on what platform you're using. Like for example, with ESPN,
yeah,
which is a common standard one. When people tend to draft auto pick a lot of times when they start not to know, and so if Drew Brees, it's kind of funny. I'm sure if they put Drew Brees at like 160 versus 100, he'd probably still be drafted in like wherever they put him.
Yeah,
if I had to guess, it's just. I think a lot of it depends on the site's preset rankings.
And I'm not gonna lie, it might sound like I made a 1,000 IQ play by picking him there, but I was watching the Nuggets game, and I forgot in auto draft picked him with my last pick.
Oh,
so I
didn't even tell me that when you went over your team.
I know it seemed like a genius pick, but it was the auto draft. It wasn't me.
Something you never should have said.
I know. But anyways, Kyler Murray. I'm not big on him, and you'd have to fall very far for me to want him. Yeah, got him. Let's see here. The one thing I like, the rushing attempts, number 3 in carries, 3 in carries per game, 3 in red zone carries, 3 in red zone carries per game, number 2 in yards, number 2 in yards per game, and number 4 in touchdowns. So he's essentially the number 3 rushing quarterback, which is good. Very good. But unfortunately, that's about all I like. Because after Kenyon Drake showed up, they went from the 4th most passing team down to the 26th. And that worries me. Do I think they'll be the 26th this season? No. But, especially when they went out and got DeAndre Hopkins. But it is concerning nonetheless. He also ranked very high in attempts, like number 9 in attempts total, number 10 in red zone attempts, number 9 in deep zone or deep ball threats. So he threw a lot. And unfortunately, his distance was only 15th. His completed air was only 15th. His passing distance was number 18. He was number 3 in money throws, which I do like that a lot.
Oh.
But he was essentially the number 9 in attempts, and only one of the efficiency stats fell into the top 9, which is concerning. And essentially, he's getting drafted with Dak Prescott. And last year, Dak Prescott threw for 5,000, threw for, I can't remember how many touchdowns. I don't have it written down here, but a lot of touchdowns, and was a good runner too. So he's getting drafted at the same point. At best, he'd be a Prescott. They're being drafted the same. So I'd much, much, much rather have Dak Prescott than him. Number 6 might be a little upsetting because my number 5.
No.
However, number 5 will be shown in the next section of 5.
What a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I know. But number 6 is Deshaun Watson. He was wildly inconsistent. He was either an MVP candidate or a below average quarterback, depending on the game. Here's just a sample size from weeks 1 through 4. Week 1, 30 points, good. Week 2, 12, bad. Week 3, 26, good. Week 4, 11. It's a roller coaster with him. He is an underrated rusher, and I think his ADP is actually fine. He's easily a guy who could win you a game.
Do you have his? I feel like his offensive line's not very good. Do you have any numbers on that?
Let me pull it up.
I will tell you that I have him ranked 6th as well.
Ooh.
I mean,
mildly adequate minds think alike, huh?
It's kind of wild how many, and I know it's because he rushed for 400 yards, but he didn't even hit 4K passing yards.
Yeah.
Which is a little strange because he had 26
his protection
touchdowns.
rate was number 12. And yeah, his supporting cast efficiency was number 10. So, but without Hopkins, it'll probably lower. And that's one concern I have with him is
Brandon Cooks is going to, I know he's not DeAndre Hopkins.
He's not DeAndre Hopkins, and he isn't as healthy as DeAndre Hopkins always is.
Well, he's healthier than Will Fuller, so they'll at least have somebody to stretch the
And
field.
do you think? And I also have concerns because they have David Johnson, who I know catches the ball a lot, but at the same time,
They got another Duke Johnson. Yay.
Yeah, at the same time, he's not good at running through the tackles. But I feel like now that they have him, they're going to try to run him through the tackles.
Is he? I mean, you have to think that. Look at the running backs that have pulled off 1,000-yard seasons the last 3 years for them, 3 or 4 years.
That's where my optimism for David Johnson lies because it's Carlos Hyde looks serviceable, so obviously this guy has to.
Lamar Miller's not in the league anymore, is he?
I want to say he got signed by the Patriots, but I don't think he did.
I'm going to look it up.
I remember it was a rumor. I can't remember if it was actually for real or not. But yeah, he was my last one. His ADP is fine, but without Hopkins, it worries me. So again, I don't know. If I could get him in the 6th round, would I pick him? Probably not. What's up with that face?
Oh, the headline from one day ago. New Patriots running back, Lamar Miller. I've never run as much as with New England.
Yeah, I thought he was in New England.
Yeah, Patriots running back Lamar Miller making late push for carries one day ago.
Ooh.
Granted,
he's going up.
Did he play anywhere last year?
Yeah, he got hurt.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Oh. He's only 29.
That's a million years old for a running back, though.
He played. He didn't record a carry in 2019. Did he get hurt in the offseason?
I think he tore his ACL or something in the preseason.
Oddly enough, in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, he only has in 7 seasons. Obviously, one was a rookie where he only started 1 game, but he only has 2 1,000-yard seasons.
I remember everyone was screaming "free him" when he was on Miami
because he was super good.
and then they freed him. They're like, "No, put him back. Put it back. We don't want him freed anymore."
In 2014, on 1,100 yards, his yards per carry is 5.1.
Yeah, I know. And only in 216 carries, it's fantastic.
He also had 52 or 38 receptions too. He had 8 touchdowns.
Let me look up his injury real quick.
Sorry. Do you want me to? What number were you on?
That was my final one. However, I have Lamar Miller pulled up. Let's see the.
I'm not sure how in a quarterback ranking we got onto a Lamar Miller deal here, but
oh boy. All right, it was preseason as predicted, and let's see here. He's had his fair share of injuries, and let me just look up the injury probability is at a 49%, which honestly isn't that bad.
I don't think he really has though.
Well, they're like I'm looking at the list now: shoulder strain, ankle sprain,
Outside
ankle
of
sprain,
his
chest
rookie
contusion.
season, where he only started one game, the least amount of started games he had is 13.
I guess a bunch of them are minor ones. However, his last injury, which was
16, he played 14, and in 18 he played 14. But every other season was 16.
in the preseason of 2019, he had an ACL and MCL tears. Surgery was knee construction surgery, which is set timetables around 6 to 9 months according to this. Missed 18 games.
Well,
but that would explain why we did not see Lamar Miller last year.
Apologize to the listeners for going on a Lamar Miller rant, but I doubt any of you guys knew that either. So that'd actually be impressive if somebody did.
Yeah, I said Patriots. I thought it was the ACL in preseason, which wasn't wrong.
I had no idea.
It was also the MCL though.
I forgot he was even on a team last year.
Yeah, he was on. Or I guess he didn't suit up, but he was on the Texans.
I guess he's not that old.
I think that's why they went out and got Hyde.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Now that I remember, I will go ahead and go over very quickly my quarterbacks 10 through 6. Excuse me, I got running backs on the mind. Number 10 is going to be Josh Allen. He's mostly 10 just because of his threat with his legs. I mean, when you're rushing for 9 touchdowns and 500 yards, that's obviously really good. And so that's kind of the bump that you need to elevate yourself over a lot of other guys. And obviously, he's proven that he is a runner. This wasn't necessarily a fluke. And I expect him to be a lot better. Or I guess I don't know about a lot better. I expect his passing to get a lot better is what I meant.
Especially now that he's a clear-cut guy.
Only had 3,100 passing yards and 20 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, which is not very good, honestly, at all. And
it's not bad. It's just they didn't ask
20
much
touchdowns?
20 to 9 isn't a horrible ratio. 3,000 or 3,200 yards isn't horrible. It's just they didn't ask much.
Gardner Minshew has more touchdowns than him in 12 games. Like, that's not good.
No, it's not good, but it isn't terrible.
I do think, though, the weapons are increased a little bit. Stephon Diggs is going to help him out a lot. Cole Beasley is still there. He's okay, I guess.
Dawson Knox is supposed to be better than last year, but by default, that is saying literally nothing.
The receiving core is supposed to be a little bit better, and I expect him to hopefully be getting better.
The run game, too.
And the run game I expect to continue. I'm just not overly excited about him. Like, not to be, Brandon's a Bills fan, so I don't mean to hate on the Bills here, but if I was a Bills fan, I would not be overly excited about him long term.
I'm very excited about it.
Okay, well, fair enough, I guess. My number 9 quarterback is going to be Aaron Rodgers. As a Packer fan, this really pains me to put him here, and it's not because of him being bad or him not, it's mostly just because of the Matt LaFleur offense, which is run the ball, pass a little bit. At a 26-4, what's nice is that he essentially does not make mistakes, and if you watch most of his interceptions last year, they're not even his fault. And I say most, I mean there's only 4, but it's one of those things where he's never going to lose you points, or Jameis would have those weeks with 4 picks, or you're just hemorrhaging points everywhere. Not that anybody's probably starting him, but I think Rodgers is a very safe play. He has a very, I think now, medium ceiling. I don't think, if they let him throw again, I mean, obviously he can get it way up there, but I just think.
Or if they even got him another weapon.
Yeah, I mean, when Allen Lazard's just receiver number 2, as an Iowa State grad, that's not good.
Mohamed Sanu just got released from the Patriots. Do you see the Packers, or do you think he could at least give them something?
I'd hope he'd give a little more than he gave the Pats last season, because he gave them nothing.
I'll say, yeah. When you replace nothing, that makes you something.
As sad as it's going to say, I really wanted Emmanuel Sanders, but that tells you how bad it is.
Yeah.
But I think he's limited in what the offense is going to do and what the play calling is going to be, and I just feel his weapons are not up to par. I think another reason I think Aaron Jones is really being slept on, and this is a reason, but that's for a different episode. But
previous episode.
Number 8, I'm going to have Carson Wentz. I think he's another guy with a huge ceiling. He showed us 2 years ago what he can do when he gets moving, and he finally played 16 games last year. I know he got hurt in the playoffs, but I don't think necessarily it's fair to call him injury prone based on that. He went with the 27-7, so he really doesn't turn the ball over all that much, and I think the 27 is probably a low number, especially given how bad the receiving options have been the last couple of years.
Horrendous.
So I know they haven't, it's not like they went out and got, 3 Odell Beckham Jr.'s, but I think they've increased it enough that they're going to be a lot better. Miles Sanders is a lot better pass catcher, and I think he's going to help them out a lot more, obviously, than what they had last year. As who they were the guy with the Dolphins?
Jordan Howard. They had him as a starter for half the season.
Yeah, Jordan Howard really doesn't catch any passes, so I think that it's going to help having a guy back there all the time that can catch passes, and with the 2 tight ends, I just think he's going to keep getting better, and it's nice to see him finally healthy. So he usually is, from what I recall, he's usually pretty mobile as well. So I expect a nice year out of him. He's one of the guys that if he was top 5, it would not surprise me, especially based on what he's proven before. Number 7 is going to be Ben Roethlisberger. Brandon's probably not too happy about this. Yeah. Last time he played, he went for 34 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, and 5,100 yards.
That's a lot of yards.
It is a lot of yards. And even if he's not what he was, I know he had, I believe it was pretty similar to the Tommy John surgery, which is a very strange injury for a quarterback. But from what we've seen, he looks okay. I'm not saying he looks incredible. I'm not saying he looks like he used to necessarily, but I think he's going to, he's working his way back there, and I think he can get to very close to 100% of what he was. And I expect him to keep putting up the big numbers, even with Antonio Brown obviously not being there. I think with the running back situation that they have, that they're still going to be able to put up a lot of yards through the ground there, through the passing to the running back. And then I do think the 3 receivers they have on the top are very competent. I'm a big believer in Deontay Johnson. James Washington is good enough to be putting up decent numbers. And we'll see what Juju is, but if nothing else, he's still okay.
He's a body.
Undecided if I think Juju's that good or not. But he, I just think that's a very good receiving core, and I think Ben's going to put together a very nice year again, like he always was before the injury. And my number 6, just like Brandon, is going to be Deshaun Watson. Essentially for all the same reasons. He has a lot of rushing upside, the 7 touchdowns on 400 yards, still threw for 26 touchdowns. So the yards are a little bit down, as we talked about, but with that many rushing yards, kind of makes sense. It will be interesting to see, since they essentially overhauled the entire offense, what that looks like. But I think that they're still going to be pretty good. I think Brandon Cooks will help out a lot as far as downfield goes. I am a little worried about who's going to be running over the middle, catching 1,300 yards. And I don't think they have anybody quite as versatile as Hopkins either. But I think with David Johnson being a better pass catcher than Carlos Hyde, and like we said, Brandon Cooks essentially gets 1,000 yards wherever he goes. I think they can patch together enough of receiving options to keep his numbers afloat.
And so, last year he wasn't huge on yards anyways. So
yeah, so I really like Deshaun Watson this year. And that's going to wrap up my 10 through 6. Brandon, did you have one more question or one more segment before we move to our
It's a very short question.
Okay.
And the question is, how early is too early to draft Lamar Jackson?
In all the mocks I've done on 12-team PPR leagues, he goes in the 3rd round.
Is that too early?
In the leagues that, obviously, since I'm messing around and drafting people, drafting different combinations, I've liked my team whenever I've had him. It depends how confident you are that he's going to repeat last season. I think if you could wait another couple rounds and get like a Russell Wilson or a Dak, you just have to kind of decide how much better you want if you think he's going to be, I don't remember how many points better he was.
He scored 29 a game last year.
Yeah, I mean, if you think he's going to be, 6 points a week better, then you kind of have to decide if that's worth having a worse receiver or not.
And that's what goes to my opinion. I don't think he's going to be 6 points better than everybody else.
I'm a little more nervous about him. I'd rather
have Mahomes than him.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd probably rather take Mahomes as well. In the mocks that I've had where they're both available, I usually take Mahomes because they're usually within 4 or 5 picks of each other.
And I know everyone's like, because I'm going to say, Lamar Miller injury scares me. Like, Mahomes has been hurt twice in 2 years.
Yeah, I would say.
But I don't know. Lamar Jackson worries me the way he runs so much. It's just like.
He's a pretty smart runner, though, in fairness.
He is. It's just worrisome. That and his passing game just isn't there. So if the run game gets taken away, if you're number 22 in pass yards and you're number 1 in touchdowns, that's not happening again.
Yeah, I know in the past quarterbacks have even gone in the 1st round. So if you reference prior years,
3rd round's a steal. for
I
a
would
29
say-
point per game quarterback, but
Yeah, I'd say that's not a bad deal, but it just kind of depends how you want to build your team.
Mm-hmm.
Because, that kind of would eliminate the option, at least in my head, to go with a good tight end. So if you really want a good tight end, then
and yeah, I've mentioned this before, not on the show, but if you have pick number 1, for instance, should take McCaffrey, who was I think like 9 points better per game than the best guy, or the second best guy, and then a lot has to fall into place. A couple guys have to fall a few positions, but with your next pick, you could in theory get Travis Kelce. Sorry, I totally blanked on his name. Travis Kelce, who is the number 1 tight end, and then you can go and get Lamar Jackson, who was the number 1 by like 9 points last year. And in theory, you could have the guys who are so far ahead of everybody else the year prior. And then, of course, you'd obviously be really, really, really hurting for receivers and running backs. But I think there's enough talent in the back where you could also get serviceable people, like a Julian Edelman or even a Melvin Gordon. As like an RB1 isn't great, but if you have them in conjunction with 3 positions who are clearly the best of their position, or at least they were last year, I think that could also be at least viable.
I would say I'd want 2 very strong running backs before I drafted a quarterback.
I agree. It's one of those things where I think it could work if you plan it intelligently, but I would not take Lamar Jackson. Actually,
on ESPN, the top 14 out of 15 picks are running backs. I would say if you don't get 2 of those 14, so you kind of have to have a rare spot, I think anywhere between 8 and 12.
Yeah.
If you can, or maybe it's 9 and 12, I haven't thought about it. But if you have a pick in between there, I think that's a good situation for you to actually get him. If you were picking first or second, I probably would not have him.
Yeah, he's one of those, like, unless you have some crazy strategy.
Maybe
that might
the
work.
fourth of the round. The beginning of the 4th round is where I target him. But
I myself, very late 3rd round, maybe. But that's at least moving on into our next territory, which is our top 5. And did you want to give the intro to the top 5? Nope. So this is our top 5. Make sure to leave a like if you like
our top 5 what?
What year? I'm sorry. Well said. This is our top 5 quarterback ranking, the definitive of 2020.
Whoa.
Yes. Whoa. These are the 5 quarterbacks who we think will be the best, obviously, i.e. top 5.
If they are not the best, then
click that like button.
You need to tell us.
Yeah. Or let us know in the comments.
Cuss us out in the comments.
If we ruined your league, let us know.
Which would be funny, but we don't want to do.
I will lose sleep.
I will not, but I'll probably laugh.
Yeah.
I'm not a professional. I don't get paid for this. What are you going to do? Fire me from YouTube?
But if you leave that like, we might be getting paid for it. Keep that in mind. Number 5. This might be a little bit of a hot take, which I know I prefaced just about everyone with every section, but that is Carson Wentz. Threw for 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, which is good. 4K yards, which is also really nice. His first truly, or maybe not his first, maybe second truly healthy season in a weak division. Number 5 in pass attempts last year, which helps a lot too. And he did all of this with his top 3 catchers being 2 tight ends and a running back, which is honestly astounding and incredible. We now have a healthy Alshon Jeffrey, which I know.
Did I just hear astounding and incredible?
Astounding and incredible, yes.
It's both of those
things?
It
is both at the exact same time.
My goodness.
2 adjectives, not just one. But we have a healthy Alshon, which who knows how much he's got left in the tank, but he's at least healthy. We have a healthy Deshaun Jackson, who's still a good deep target threat. And Jalen Reagor, who I think just had a shoulder injury. However, he's at least a young guy they got to, so they're at least committed to getting better receivers.
I do want to note that 3 days ago, there was an article out that says Alshon Jeffrey injury. There's a chance the Eagles wide receiver will play in September. So Alshon Jeffrey is already hurt.
Oh, I didn't see that. But yeah, okay, Alshon's hurt. I did not know
that, but I could have guessed it. If you would have said true or false, if there was a money line that was 50-50 on true or false, I'd
probably say true. But yeah, he's proven us that he does not need elite receivers to be elite. However, or essentially any receivers to be elite. So now he has 3 guys who are better than the 3 guys they had last year because they were hurt last year. So
they're still all hurt this year.
Yeah, but Deshaun will also open up the offense, and I think also that Miles Sanders is going to be a very, very, very helpful addition for him as well, like he was last year. Number 4, we have Russell Wilson. Talent-wise, he's arguably the best, or maybe number 2 talent-wise. He's incredible. Number 2 in money throws, and he was number 35 in interceptable balls. That right there should tell you everything you need to know about him. Clean pocket percentage, that's tongue twister. He was number 1. He threw for 31 touchdowns, which is a lot, and he threw, especially for this season, and he threw for 5 interceptions, which is not a lot. We're seeing a over 6-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is unheard of. He's a very underrated rusher as well, top 10 in every single rushing stat. I like him a lot, and he does this with his receivers aren't great. I know you like Tyler Lockett a lot, but when you think of
DK Metcalf, come on.
When you think of good receiving cores, you don't think DK Metcalf and TJ Lockett. So,
TJ Lockett.
I'm sorry. I totally lost his name.
What's his name?
I can't remember. It's very late.
Tyler
Lockett, excuse me.
It's not very late.
It's late. I got up at 5 today. So I've been conscious for almost.
I think you're forgetting about third leg Greg Olsen.
Oh, G-Reg with a third leg. Yes, Greg Olsen's there as well. But yeah, I've been conscious for 17 hours straight, so we're getting a little slow. Number 3, we have Dak Prescott. Number 2 in yards, number 2 in air yards, number 4 in touchdowns, number 6 in money throws, number 5 in deep attempts, which disproves the Dak and dunk myth. Number 8 in supporting cast, and number 4 in touchdowns, with also 18th in red zone attempts.
What did his cast? What is supporting cast rank?
Last season was ranked number 8. However, they just added CeeDee Lamb, which should boost him up quite a bit.
There is no way they're.
It's what it said.
The Packers ranked 34.
It's what it said.
They're not even in the top 32.
That being said, though, he was very, very good last year, obviously. And I believe he's getting picked around the 7th or 8th round last year. I remember I got him, and I was in both my leagues. I was really iffy, but he kept falling. And he definitely paid off. And like I said, he's number 4 in touchdowns, and he was number 18th in red zone attempts, which also just shows that he is willing to air it out, and it works a lot when he does that. Number 2, hot take, Lamar Jackson. I guess most rankings I see have him ranked ahead of Mahomes, but most drafts and most ADP sites have Mahomes ahead of him. So it seems like the experts are saying draft Lamar Jackson. The people are saying I'd rather have Patrick Mahomes, and this expert is agreeing with the fans. Last season he was number 20, and I use the term expert very lightly. Number 22 in pass attempts, number 1 in passing touchdowns. I do not like that. I've probably referenced that every single episode, whether we're talking about receivers, running backs, whatever. I don't like that stat at all. That scares me. That's unrepeatable.
We need to fact check. I have he's the 26th most attempts in the league.
Oh.
Which either way, I'm saying one of us
gets even worse.
One of us needs a fact check. He did not throw the ball a lot. Is the moral of the story.
And if you're correct, that stat even gets worse for him. It is loading. We have. You're right. Number 26. I must have just typed the wrong number. So yep, number 20. Oh, I'm sorry. That's pass attempts.
Is that not what you were saying?
Passing yards, he was 22.
I'm sorry.
Pass attempts, he's number 26.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought you were talking
We're
about
both right.
attempts.
We're both right. Okay.
My apologies.
No, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, he's number 22 in yards, number 1 in touchdowns. That is very, very scary. He was number 17 in red zone attempts, but number 1 in touchdowns. Again, for people like Dak, it kind of works as he airs it out a lot more than Lamar Jackson. But for Lamar Jackson, I don't like that at all. He had 135 rushing attempts, which is 8 a game, and with no injuries, which was good, but it worries me. And his protection rate last year was also number 3 in the league, which is very good, but will that happen again? I don't know. And if it goes down, because it can't really go up.
It's hard to stack a box against him.
That is true, but the thing is, it can't really go up. So it's only set to go down or stay the same. So I think it'll go down a little bit, and if it goes down a little bit, that could hurt him as well. And his supporting cast was ranked number 5, which is also very helpful to him, and they added J.K. Dobbins. But at the same time, I don't know. It seems like everything was tooled perfectly for him to be successful, and it seems like it still is, but I still have my concerns. And number 1, with Patrick Mahomes, there's really nothing to say about him. I mean, he airs it out. He's very, very good at the deep ball, very good at the short, makes very good decisions. Doesn't throw many turnovers. He's, I believe, the best quarterback in football. He had more money throws than interceptable balls, which is very, very rare for quarterbacks. And he's surrounded by all the weapons he needs. He has a nice new running back, Clyde Edwards, who is very nice, very new.
Yes.
And he is very, very good in the pass catching as well, better than Damian Williams was last year. We had Tyreek Hill, who was injured last year, and so was Patrick, so those two should be back at 100%. Sammy Watkins for an RB2 or 3 isn't bad, and they have Nicole Hardman, who Also, from all of the reports I see, he's a much, much, much better route runner than he was last year. So even the guys he had last year, which was a great supporting cast, seem to be getting better as well. So he's a lot safer than Jackson to me. Like, if Jackson were to finish outside the top 3 as a quarterback, I wouldn't be very surprised. Be like, oh, that's a little weird. But if Mahomes were to finish outside top 3, other than injury, I'd be absolutely shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my top 5. What do you got for yours?
So I'm going to run through these pretty quick because they're mostly the same guys. My number 5 is going to be Dak Prescott. I think he slept on every single year for a couple reasons. I mean, that means you have to cheer for the Cowboys. So who wants to do that? I certainly don't.
No.
But he always does put up a ton of passing yards, a lot of touchdowns, fewer. I mean, I know his interceptions are kind of high, but pretty few interceptions. And he always has a decent amount of running yards that are kind of sneaky because you don't really see him as much of a running quarterback.
I think it's just the narrative that surrounds him. Like, oh, they run a lot there. Well, he was like, I think top 3 in pass. He was number 2 in attempts.
Yeah,
no, never mind.
They're also a team that they, like I've always make fun of them for. They always like are down a lot and are always coming back. And so everybody's like, oh, their offense is incredible. It's like everybody's just playing cover 2.
It was wild. Last year they were ranked I think they're top 5 in defense, or top 10 in defense, and top 5 in offense. And I think like they were ranked number 20. Like, how's that even possible? Like that makes no sense.
Plus minus is probably
like
it's about even. Probably.
Like in the power rankings and everything, they're like number 20 at one point. I'm like, man, they're top 5 and they're top 10 and overall, and they move back to 20.
I think that's where the box score doesn't do them justice, if that makes sense. So he's my number 5. He's always solid. He's going to remain solid, and the passing game just got better, if anything. And I don't think Zeke can look much worse than he did last year, even though his stats are pretty good. So I just think that the Cowboys' offense is a safe bet. So I would just get anybody you can on that and roll with it.
Especially CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, no, exactly. I like at number 4, I'm actually going with Tom Brady.
Ooh.
I know this is kind of a hot take. With Tom Brady, essentially you either love him or you hate him. I'm finding myself on the love him camp. Just more so because of the weapons, because of Bruce Arians. I know that it's been mentioned in other places before, but it looked like Carson Palmer was about ready to die, and Bruce Arians turned him into a top quarterback for 3 consecutive years. And the only one he wasn't top, he got injured. And so I think Brady, there's a good argument that he selectively chose them, for this reason. And they obviously have every weapon you could ever want. Like we just mentioned, they just signed Fournette. They have Ronald Jones, LaShawn McCoy, just 3 good tight ends.
Kershawn Vaughn.
Probably the best receiving core. They have that, I can't remember his last name right now, but they have the Scotty guy that's coming on really strong. That offense just altogether is probably the best offense in football, skill position-wise. And, Tom Brady's obviously probably still, is he a top 10 quarterback?
We did say the same about the Browns last year, though.
Yeah, but this is, I would say.
I think it'll be better, too.
Their offense is clearly better than the Browns.
Probably.
Every position. I mean, you could argue Odell would be like a third. Would he be the third best receiver on that team? I don't.
He's gone downhill the past 4 years.
But I expect him to be very good. And I think people forget that he threw over 4,000 yards last year and 24 touchdowns. I mean, he even had 3 rushing touchdowns, which I know he's really good at the quarterback sneak. But I think when people think of Tom Brady, they think of if you had to survey people, 3,000 yards,
old man,
20 touchdowns. I mean, he's still putting up pretty good numbers. Despite the age, and that was with bad skill positions. So I don't know why he can't be better, and I expect him to be better, and I expect him to be able to throw the deep ball a lot more, especially with Arians there, as he likes to air it out a lot more. So Brady could actually be higher than this, but I feel safe with him at about pick 4. My number 3 spot is going to be Russell Wilson. I know Brandon was right there with him too. Over 30 touchdowns with 5 interceptions, over 4,000 yards, and he still got it done on the ground too. That's just a combination for just massive numbers, a lot of points. And with DK Metcalf being better and Lockett still being there and just, I know we laughed about Greg Olsen, but, I think that he's going to keep being, his numbers, I can't remember what the exact, the wording's losing me. His ability, his per throw for touchdowns. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the touchdown percentage.
Touchdown essentially per throw number is extremely high. And so I just expect him to be very efficient. I think that's the number I was looking for. And maintain that level of efficiency and still just ball out this year and keep moving forward.
Especially because he's done it for 5 years.
Yeah, he's just an efficient quarterback that's going to go against all the numbers, and that's just kind of what it is.
Yeah, like I'm worried about Lamar Jackson for that same reason, but I like take comfort in the fact with Russell Wilson with that because he's done it so much.
I would argue he could be the best quarterback in the league too. I think it's him and Mahomes pretty clearly the best two. But at number 3, or excuse me, I had Russell Wilson at 3. At number 2, I have Patrick Mahomes. As Brandon said, there's really not much to say about him. This is another example of one that if I had to draft, I would probably go against my rankings and take him over Lamar. You're essentially taking Lamar for the ceiling, which, one could argue that their ceilings are about the same.
A healthy Mahomes has a pretty high ceiling too.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. But I have Patrick Mahomes at number 2. I expect him to be fully healthy. He's still sneaky, had 500 and almost 50 rushing yards last season.
Did he really?
Yeah, with 4 touchdowns. So he's quite a runner himself. Doesn't quite hit the 1,200 Lamar Jackson had, but he's quite the runner himself.
Almost.
I know, right? His touchdowns were down to 26 this year. I believe he was very close. Did he hit 50? I can't remember the year before.
Yeah, he was hurt this season. Kelsey got hurt.
There's a difference between
Hill got hurt.
26 on 14.
I think he himself missed like 4 games, or he was only 2.
He started 14, so
Okay.
he got hurt one of those, obviously.
So played about 13.
I expect him to be back a lot better than he was this year.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even bad this year, but I expect the offense to be a lot better next year. Probably more of in the middle of what last year was and the year before. I don't know if they're going to go for record-breaking numbers again, but I think that if any team has a chance to, it's probably them.
If he threw for 40, I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't either. And then Lamar does have me a little worried. He's at 1 more so because of his upside, I would say. Just given, like I said, he had the 7 touchdowns to 1,200 and 1,200 rushing yards. Add on top of that, he had 36 passing touchdowns. He's a little more volatile in the sense that if you told me his numbers dropped to 26, I wouldn't be ultimately that shocked for passing just because he's only throwing for 3,100 yards. But again, this will be his 3rd season. I almost want to say it's his 2nd because he didn't play very many games his rookie year. It's going to be his 2nd full year, and the team is still very good. And I think that they're going to get, Hollywood's going to continue to get better. And I just think the team's, even their new rookie running back is going to give them more depth at the running back spot, give them some more fresh life there. And I just expect them to be the same, or maybe even a little better than what they were last year. So it seems almost impossible that he can continue, but then there's a world where you're saying it could be better even. So
the postseason worried me a bit because he got straight up shut down.
Yeah,
and he's proven that he can be stopped.
It's a little harder to keep going in the playoffs. The Titans also throw people off their game a little bit because they rush so much.
That is true.
Where usually the Ravens are the ones who are able to run all over everybody. So I think it kind of slows the pace down.
But what I mean is even the Chiefs were able to take down the Titans. And I'm pretty sure, I can look up the box score, but I'm pretty sure Mahomes did just fine.
Yeah. It's if you're going for the total safe play, take Mahomes. I mean, if you really want to be safe, don't even take Lamar Jackson. That would be the easy thing.
See, that's why I don't know. I think that's why I have him ahead of him. Just like they're both like obviously decent. Well, yeah, like Mahomes, for instance. Yeah, Mahomes did very well against them.
Like I said, for the level of risk, which I'm willing to assume, I would take Mahomes ahead of him. Personally, even though I have Lamar Jackson projected at higher points.
Fair enough.
If that makes sense. It depends what your risk tolerance is. Usually if you're taking a quarterback pretty early, it's because you want a guaranteed set of points. Not that Lamar's not going to give you a very high guaranteed set of points. It's just that he has a lot more potential for volatility, which is always a little worrisome. So that is going to wrap up our receivers, our top 5 there.
Our quarterbacks.
Our top 5 quarterbacks. Sorry,
it's getting late.
It's been an hour and 23 minutes. Boop, do you still have your laptop open? Can you give us...
Yes.
How about this? We highlighted a couple names of players that we think can do better than how we have them ranked. I guess you would call them value players or league-winning flyers, because none of these guys you're probably going to start. Do you have your list pulled up? Do you just want to read them? You don't have to necessarily give us your reasoning. Just how about you give us however many players you have highlighted as, hey, this guy is potential league-winning flyer, or he's a value play. He's being drafted.
Yeah, the primary one I have is Matthew Stafford. I know you said you might not start him, but he's being drafted as, I think, the number 13 quarterback in the 11th round. He was being picked, according to ADP, on the ADP calculator, only 5 picks ahead of Daniel Jones, which, in my opinion is absolutely ludicrous. So he's one of those guys I think who could really elevate your team. And based on he got a new head coach last year, and he was really, really doing well before he got hurt. So injuries aside, I think he has if he could stay healthy, he has top 5 potential to me.
No, I have him highlighted as well. I just highlighted 4 guys that I thought could outperform where they're at or be potential league winners. I have Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill, Drew Lock, and Kyler Murray. So those are the guys I have.
Cam Newton was another one of mine, just because he's being drafted, I think, in the 13th or 14th round.
I did want to note that Ryan Tannehill only started 10 games, and
he was
22,
so good.
He had 22 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing. So 26 total touchdowns in 10 games is pretty solid.
Yeah, I had him on my team last year.
I just wanted to note that. I'm not saying start him. I'm just saying something to watch.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, like, if you can guarantee he'd get 35 attempts a game this season, I'd have him in top 10 easy.
Yeah,
it's just
the run game helps him.
It's very difficult, yeah.
Well, that being said, that is going to wrap up this episode. I believe this was episode 5. And that means that all of our skill positions, we have gone through all of our skill positions. You can find...
What a journey.
Let me ask. Brandon, where can you find all of our previous podcasts discussing positions?
You can find them actually in plenty of places. You could find them on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, I guess. You could also find them on Spotify, and that is under the Suit Yourself podcast. But let's say podcasts, they're not for me. Well, fine. Then go to our YouTube channel, Suit Yourself Pod. It is Suit Yourself Pod. And on there, you could find full episodes in video. So you can see our beautiful faces and hear our beautiful voices. Or you could also see other videos that have been cut down from parts of the podcast. We also have a website called Finish First Media. And to continue the running joke, some friends of ours are going to begin a podcast on there. I keep hearing it's any day. So for the 5th week in a row, I will report to you guys that it's coming soon. And it's actually for Dynasty. So if you're interested in Dynasty, if you're interested in content, maybe, I don't know, waiting in line at the shop, getting your oil changed, on a walk, riding your bike, and you don't want to listen to us, well, then feel free to give them a listen. It is the High Ceilings Podcast. Once it gets released. And release date is TBD.
Also, keep in mind, we will update ranks on the website this Friday. So right now, I took all the ranks off the website. We are having some trouble with the formatting. So we will have our revised preseason rankings up this Friday, and those will be completed ranks. So
I'm excited.
Of all positions. So thank you again for listening. Have a great night or great day or afternoon or wherever you're at. So goodbye.